Hello everyone and welcome back to Strange Wonders. As always, I'm your host Mr.G. Today, we're talking about two bugs in particular that are famous for their legs. That came out wrong. Today we'll be discussing two bugs that belong to the Arthroptera order, I think that's how it's pronounced, and these are the grasshopper and the cricket. Let's start with the grasshopper. In for order, Acridiidae. As you can probably tell by their names, grasshoppers are ground-dwelling insects that, while capable of flight, prefer moving around by hopping through the grass. Well, hopping's kind of an understatement. These guys can reach massive lengths thanks to their powerful legs and a little boost from their wings. This is their main defense mechanism, hopping away from predators, but some species also have other defense mechanisms. Most species are able to shoot this substance known as tobacco juice, named so because it's brown, much like your saliva when you do chewing tobacco. Don't do chewing tobacco, by the way, that stuff will kill you. Anyway, this juice is something they spit at predators, and it causes massive irritation as well as leaving a pretty permanent brown stain on their chest that's hard to get rid of. And, of course, some species are just poisonous and will kill or make their attacker sick. So, yeah. Grasshoppers are herbivores, and I think now would be a good time to talk about locusts. You see, locusts are not actually their own independent species. Rather, in some species of grasshoppers, they have another stage of their life cycle known as the swarming stage, and during this stage, they become really hungry and they start flying in massive swarms. But, I'll talk more about locusts when we get to human relations, because they're one of those animals. Now let's get to crickets. In for order, Grillidae. Now, crickets are very similar in appearance to grasshoppers, but more compressed is how I'd best describe them. And in addition, crickets also tend to be darker colors than the lighter colored grasshoppers. There's some key differences between these two bugs. For one, grasshoppers mostly spend all their time in the day, and crickets are mostly nocturnal / septicellular animals, meaning they're most active at dawn and dusk. In addition, grasshoppers are pure herbivores, while crickets tend to be more omnivores, with some species being pure carnivores. Also, the way they make sounds is completely different. Crickets rub their wings together, while grasshoppers rub their legs against their wings. Yeah, both of these species are able to make chirping noises, but crickets are more famous for it. Mostly because at night you can often hear a lot of crickets chirping around. It's described as a beautiful sound, things like that. Now, there's actually a lot of interesting animals bearing the name cricket. For one, there's mole crickets, which as their name suggests are subterranean animals that spend all their time digging through the dirt. There's katydids, which are the carnivorous crickets I was talking about earlier. You see, katydids, unlike other crickets, these guys are mostly carnivorous. So yeah, that's interesting. And some of them are known to bite warts off of people. What? And in New Zealand, they have these crickets called Wetas. You see, some of these guys have completely lost the ability to fly due to living in environments with no predators, at least natural ones. And some of these guys can get big. I'm talking the giant Weta, which is not only the biggest cricket, but also the largest insect on the planet. Whew, that's a big boy. Now that we got that out of the way, let's look at the cards. Alright, our first card comes from Toxic Terrors. It's about the elegant grasshoppers. Basically, they're the poisonous ones I was talking about earlier. They have bright colors to let you know that you'll be sick if you eat them. Although, from what I heard, their poison doesn't actually affect humans all that much. So, Anyway, 10 out of 10. I was just mentioning things. Moving over to Tiny Terrors, we got the Desert Locust for our second, and, actually, yeah, there's only 2 grasshopper cards. The rest are crickets, so yeah, there's that. 10 out of 10. Next, we got the Armored Ground Cricket. Again, I can't really find any errors here. Next, we got the Bush Crickets, also better known as katydids, whatever. Anyway, also can't really find anything wrong here. Same with the Giant Weta, the Mole Cricket, the Wart Biter, and the Cave Weta. If any of you guys noticed errors that I missed, please tell me as always. Now let's talk about human relations. When it comes to human relations, crickets are like the butterflies to grasshoppers' moths. Yeah, grasshoppers do not really have good relations with humans. First of all, even regular grasshoppers can absolutely destroy your garden by eating the leaves off of your plants. But secondly, and much more obviously, there's locusts. Yeah, locusts. Where do I start? So, as mentioned earlier, locusts are what happens when grasshoppers enter their swarming stage. And during this time, they get hungry. And now you might think that's not so bad. Locusts are pretty small animals. There's no way they can eat that much, right? Well, that's kinda true. Except for the swarms they travel in. These aren't like a swarm of about a dozen or so bees or so. Locust swarms can measure up to the trillions! Yes! Trillions! So yeah, in these swarms, they straight up outnumber the entire population of humans. So that's comforting. And as you can imagine, a swarm that big needs a lot of food to eat. And it does. Whenever a swarm of locusts comes by, they end up completely decimating all plant life in the area, which completely destroys the agriculture of wherever they swarm. Yeah, whenever a locust swarm happens, it pretty much kills the agriculture industry for a while in that area. Locust swarms have been a problem for so long, and even ancient texts make references to them. For example, in the biblical book of Exodus, one of the plagues sent down on Egypt is a swarm of locusts. So yeah, people have feared them for the longest time. In fact, even to this day, swarms of locusts are often called plagues due to just how destructive they are. Even to this day, we're still looking for countermeasures to stop locust swarms. One of the most weird but surprisingly effective ideas is to use ducks. You see, some species of ducks are predators of locusts, and they can eat a whole bunch of the bugs. So the plan is to release a whole bunch of ducks into areas where locust attacks are most likely to happen, and have the ducks scare the locusts away. So yeah, there's that. Meanwhile, crickets, yeah, they exist. In some countries, crickets are considered lucky. You can buy dried up crickets covered in seasoning. I don't think I can eat that. I really don't like the idea of eating an entire animal at once. The idea of that just kind of disturbs me, especially since they still have the eyes and feet attached, so yeah, I don't really want to eat those. And you know what, just to further demonstrate the difference between how people see grasshoppers and how people see crickets, let's look at how they're portrayed in media, shall we? In media, crickets are generally portrayed very positively in works such as Mulan, Pokemon, and oh yeah, one of the most famous Disney characters is a cricket. Yeah. Although, fun fact, did you know that in the original book, the cricket was unnamed and he got killed by Pinocchio pretty much as soon as he met him, and then his ghost came back to haunt the puppet? Man, books can be weird sometimes. What do grasshoppers have? Well, there's Aesop's fable, The Grasshopper and the Ant, where grasshoppers are portrayed as lazy bums who end up starving to death in the winter. So, there's that. Oh, and there's A Bug's Life, where grasshoppers are portrayed as basically biker gangs that all bugs fear. So yeah, it's pretty clear who humans favor more. Well, that's all for this episode of Strange Wonders. See you next time when Mr.G! You're awake! Oh, thank goodness! Oh, we have so much to tell you.